Jermaine Foster.
BBC Radio Merseyside.
Dead Pigeon Gallery is a roaming gallery that is now in its 8th site, which is a former bakery warehouse in Kensington. They want to bring art and culture into the heart of working class community, and their exhibition High Vis returns this week. Joining me on the phone to tell us a bit more about it, I'm joined by Jayne Lawless and Josie Jenkins. Hi, you ladies.
Hiya, Jermaine, you all right?
Very well, thank you. Thank you very much for chatting to us on the evening show. So, let's, before we start talking about the exhibition, High Vis, which sounds cool. I saw a few videos of it before. Looks very interesting. And why don't you tell us a bit about Dead Pigeon Gallery?
So I think the first thing that people are interested in is the actual name itself, and how we come up with such a weird name.
Yes.
So basically our first site was off the back of London Road. It was a space that's now called the Tapestry, owned by Jason Abbott. And at the time, we were just a bunch of artists looking for somewhere to show work. And we just felt like at that time, there wasn't really anywhere that we could just show what we can do and what we're all about, really. Mm-hmm. So Jason showed us round what was then a pretty dilapidated warehouse. He won't mind us saying that. And we instantly fell in love with it. And he just said, I think you're mad, because it was absolutely full of dead pigeons and live pigeons as well. So we basically had this show. It was on for a week, and it was such a success. When the building was about to get redeveloped, we obviously couldn't afford the space. That's the typical artist story. Mm-hmm. So instead of kind of being downhearted and thinking, well, that's the one and only exhibition, we were approached by Ian Byrne, who at the time was working for Dan Carden, and they were just about to move into a space on Priory Road. He said, do you want to do something art-wise in Anfield? So that's when we had the idea, rather than reinventing the wheel, we would just take Dead Pigeon to other spaces.
So what are your involvements in it, Jayne and Josie? How are you guys both involved with Dead Pigeon? I almost said it again then. Dead Pigeon Gallery.
Honestly, Dead Pigeon Society, don't you?
I do, every time. Every time I want to say it.
To be honest, all of us pigeons now who have been involved in the last 3 years, we are a Dead Pigeon Society now, you know what I mean?
Because there's us three, and who maybe are the driving force, and Jayne really, she just really pushes me and Catherine, makes us feel like, this is so important, because it is, it's something that, we all feel really strongly about. But then there's always other people who dip in and out quite a bit. So there's certain people come honorary pigeons, but it's like anyone. We'll give anyone that status, really.
Well, we think it's a proper art community. It's what we want to encourage as well is a sense of ownership. And we will involve people, because we're all in the same boat. We've all got other jobs. This is what we do in our spare time. Do you know what I mean? And the goal, the dream, is that Dead Pigeon becomes a flagship and becomes a signpost and becomes the go-to place that people come to us and say, look, we really want some help with putting this together, or, because it's not just traditional art in the sense of painting and sculpture and stuff. We involve people who maybe the art world, the traditional art world, wouldn't have in their galleries, people who are more craft-based. We're working with someone at the moment called East Street Concrete, and they have the same kind of level as everybody else, like Mark Leckie, who's in the show, who's won the Turner Prize. Do you know what I mean? Everyone's on a level playing field. Mm-hmm. And we won't work with people if their ego comes first. So whoever's in the show, whether you've just won the Turner Prize, or Jackie Hallam, who's just won the John Morse Painting Prize, they're at the same pecking order as people who've maybe never showed any work before. We've got a brand new filmmaker with us this time called Harvey Morrison, and it's his first ever exhibition, and he's shown Mark Leckie, because we're trying to break down that kind of elitist wall as well of who gets to have an exhibition and who doesn't. Because we're just all about promoting talent. Okay. And there's just so much out there.
So tell us about the exhibition you guys are running at the moment then. It's High Vis, it's called. What's it all about?
So basically this time last year I was up in the Scottish Highlands on holiday. Remember them?
Remember those days.
I know. I was with a friend, and we went to this place called Wallago Steps in the Scottish Highlands. And it's basically 364 steps that take you down into this cove where there's this family of seals. I'm not making any of this up. This is what actually happened. Wow. And halfway down the steps, there's this fella called Charlie, all head to toe in high vis gear. And he's just he's a stonemason, and he's replacing every single step by himself. It's freezing cold. It was raining. So I just I kind of looked at the fields, but then was just as interested in Charlie. And I was like, what the hell? Why are you doing this all by yourself? What's going on? So it turns out that his mum lived at the top of this cliff, and it's a cliff in the middle of nowhere. And there was this little house at the top, and she just recently passed away. And the Scottish government wanted to close down these steps because they said it was dangerous. And he was so upset because that was his mum's life, and he saw it as his legacy to repair these steps. So the Scottish government went, you can't just repair the steps, you've got to be like a professional stonemason. And he went, ha ha ha, I am a professional stonemason and I've just worked all over the world, blah, blah, blah. And they said, well, we've got no funding. So he said, well, I'll just do it by myself. So this fella was one by one replacing each stone step. And we just talked for ages, and I just said, you know what, Charlie, it's stories like these everyday endeavours that people just care so much for and are so passionate about, and there's such craftsmanship and skill, and a lot of that's dying out. I said, I'm going to make artwork about you one day. And I can't say what his answer was because this is going to go out on the radio, but he basically said, oh, as if. But with a big thick Scottish accent. And I said, no, I will. And I carried that idea with me till I got back to Liverpool, and then I met an artist called Jacob Gawley, who, unbeknown to him, I had this High Vis idea in the back of my mind. Showed me this oil painting that he'd just done of a 6-foot fella wearing High Vis. And that's when I knew that was a sign to, there was something there. And because I've always made work about, the working classes anyway, and the idea of uniform, and when you put on a certain type of uniform, society judges you in a certain way, and it's the basic class system. So I've always made work that elevate the importance of what people do and their roles. And of course, throughout this COVID pandemic, all of us have realised, well, we haven't, but the rest of the world have realised that we do judge people by what kind of clothes they're wearing or what uniform they've got on. So High Vis was literally to elevate that idea again that the working classes are just as important and their roles are just as important. Yeah, so that's the long version of High Vis. So
the High Vis exhibition, it's going to be based in a former bakery somewhere in Kensington, right?
It's on Marvin Street, which is sort of like it's a small industrial area, but it's really close to the hospital. It's not far from town, really. And it used to be a bakery a long time ago, and the owners came to an event that I ran that had nothing to do with Dead Pigeon. It was a separate art event. They came because they wanted to meet artists who might want to do something in their space, because they just want to build their own community around that space as well. They're really passionate about a lot of different things and creative people. And so I immediately thought, they need to speak to Jayne because maybe we could do something for DPG. And that's sort of how the relationship started, isn't it? So the invite to come in was a long time ago, and COVID struck, and it kept getting put off. And just before the second lockdown, we were going to put it on again. It was all going to happen. Suddenly, lockdown was announced, and we had one day to move the exhibition so that we could get it open for just one day before lockdown. And we did that.
Including all the evening performances, yeah.
And we had some performances lined up, and so everyone moved all their stuff around and made this happen. And we were able to film the performances and put them out on through our social media accounts, so the public could have something nice to watch while they were stuck in their homes for weeks. And then we said to everyone, we'll open again when lockdown's over, which is what we're doing right now. So we're open from 11 till 4. From this Thursday, 10th of December, until Thursday, the 17th of December. Just not opening on the Monday. All of the days we're open, but we do ask that people book tickets because of COVID. We want to manage the numbers that come in and make sure everyone's safe. We ask people to wear masks as well. And you can do that via an Eventbrite page, but it's a free ticket. You don't pay. And that's all... There's links all over our social media. You only have to look for us. Our social media accounts are, Instagram is at Dead Pigeon Gallery, and Twitter is at Dead Pigeon G. Yeah, that's the best place to find us, isn't it?
Yeah, or Facebook as well.
And Facebook, yeah, Dead Pigeon Gallery, yeah.
Big thank you to Jayne and Josie from the Dead Pigeon Gallery. Really interesting chatting to them this afternoon. Go and check out their exhibition, High Vis, but make sure you go online and get yourself a ticket first, or free, but they do need to know the numbers that people are going. Thank you very much, ladies. Awesome talking to you.